What's up everyone, welcome back, and today we're going to be assembling the brand new 2020 Gladiator. Just a heads up, if you're not an experienced mechanic, we do recommend that you just take this to a bike shop, support your local businesses, or we can do assembly by FLX. There's a link to that in the website. So if you're not mechanically inclined, we definitely encourage professional assembly. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple build. Let's get started. This is our fat tire bike and the first of its kind through FLX. We're excited to unbox this for you and get it assembled. The first thing you're gonna need is a razor blade. So if you're by yourself assembling this bike and you don't have a spare hand or anything, we're gonna recommend cutting this box open on the side from top to bottom, left and right. Once you get both sides of the box cut, go ahead and just support your bike with your hand and let that last layer fall, and it will expose the new Gladiator. Wow, these tires are so fat. Let's get this thing built. This Gladiator is a touring package, so included in the box is a pair of fenders and some other goodies, but the next step is to use a pair of clippers and take off all of the zip ties on the bike. So a cool thing to do with your zip ties when you're cutting them off to save the planet is cut them just like this so that you can simply pull this end out, and there you have a brand new fresh zip tie to be used on any projects, or even when you're assembling your bike if you want to zip tie some cables together. Great little hack. So we just got the front tire unclipped, and you can go ahead and pull off these plastic shields on either side of the wheel. Save these if you plan on shipping your bike ever, because you can reuse them and protect your equipment. Also on this front wheel is your front wheel skewer, so you're going to want to cut that off and save that for when we're ready to put on the front wheel. So every FLX bike comes standard with a set of pedals and a starter toolkit. The first thing we're gonna have to do once we're ready to assemble the bike is get the handlebar on. So we're gonna open up this box and get that starter toolkit out. Once you've located the proper Allen tool, come to your stem faceplate and unscrew that. There will be 4 bolts holding on this faceplate. This is an important step for the stem faceplate. If you ordered the touring package, you're going to want to install your headlight at this time too. So bring your handlebar up to the bike, and you want this to be nice and easy to bring up to the bars. Make sure it's not tangled around or anything. Make sure that the display is facing properly. We're gonna set that there. The headlight on the touring package mounts to the stem. So we're going to make sure that we line up those 2 holes as we put the faceplate back on. Once you've gotten the lower 2 screws in there loosely, you can add the top 2. Keep in mind as you're tightening this that you are tightening the handlebars. So you're gonna wanna make sure that your bar is centered in the stem, as well as you want to get the pitch of the handlebar to your liking so that you can ride comfortably. Easy way to make sure that your handlebar is centered is to get your handy measuring tape and just get a good idea of where that bar is sitting on either side. If you have the touring package, as you're tightening these bolts, make sure that the upper light mount isn't wobbling around. You can ensure that it won't do this by first tightening the lower 2 stem bolts before tightening the top 2. All right, so as you can see, we've flipped the bike over, reusing our packaging from the handlebars, and this is because it's time to put on our front wheel. So we'll remove this block. This bike uses a traditional skewer system. So we're going to unwind this end cap off. as well as remove this spring. And you're going to want the lever to be on the left side of the bicycle when you clamp it. So that means it'll be on the same side as the disc in this case. When you're putting the spring on, make sure that it's pointed inwards and the smaller side is on the inside. And we'll just barely screw this on. Now we will come to the fork and align the wheel in the dropouts. And we also want to make sure that the rotor goes inside of the brake caliper. If it doesn't immediately fall in, simply unscrew that end piece just a little bit and just give it a little push. Now we will tighten the end piece, and as we're tightening it, start clamping the clamp until you feel tension being added to that. We want it to be fairly tight. Finally, in that starter box is your pedals. So let's go ahead and install those. All right, so if you're familiar with bike pedals, you'll know that the orientation is stamped on each pedal, but if not, just look on each end and you'll see an L and you'll see an R, and that tells you which side of the bike the pedal needs to go on because they are cross-threaded. An easy way to know what side of the bike is which, the right side is the side with the chain. And a quick tip, if you want to quickly put the pedal on, simply push it towards the crank lightly and start back pedaling. And that pedal will slowly thread onto the crank. This is going to be the same on both sides of the bike, so I'm just repeating the process. Inside of your toolkit is going to be a 15mm wrench, and we can use this to fully tighten the pedals on the cranks. Make sure not to over tighten these. All right guys, so if you did not pick up the touring package, then your assembly process is complete. Be sure you charge up your bike fully before its first use and enjoy the ride. If you got the touring package, continue watching and we're gonna throw on the front and rear fender on your new Gladiator. We're gonna start with the front first, which is this fender right here. You're gonna have the long side facing the rear of the bike. Just set that there, and we need to remove this nut and bolt. We've got the 10mm wrench from our toolkit, and we have the Allen tool from our toolkit, and we're just gonna start undoing this. So you're going to grab the bolt with one washer and slide that through the fender mount. Then you're going to bring that to the hole in the fork, slide that through. Then you're going to grab the other washer and the nut and put those on the opposite side and thread that on. Now, it sits pretty well, even if it's fully low, but feel free to adjust this up and down as you'd like. All right, so I'm just getting this fender tight on here, and as I'm tightening it, I wanna make sure and keep this aligned so that when it's fully tightened, it's not crooked left or right. So just use your thumb with your hand in the wrench and just keep that nice and level as you tighten this. The final bit of the touring package that you need to install is the rear fender. So we're going to start from the rear and slide this underneath the cargo rack towards the seat post. The next thing we'll do is unclamp this clamp right here. That will allow us to open up the fender and attach it to the seat post. As you can see, it's at a different angle than the seat post. So we're going to need a 3mm Allen tool to adjust this joint right here on the fender. So we're going to unscrew this counterclockwise until it fits just over the opposite end of the clamp. And then we will tighten this until there's a good amount of tension on this clamp and it won't wiggle side to side. Once you've clamped the rear fender to the seat post, loosen both of these joints and you'll be able to move the fender up or down and be able to position it just how you like it. We recommend about 1 inch or 1.5 inches of clearance. That looks pretty good. And I'm gonna go ahead and use the same tool just to tighten those 2 joints and finalize the install. All right guys, now that we've put on those fenders, the last 2 things you're gonna have is your box with your charger in it and your smartphone mount. The smartphone mount is super simple to put on and it mounts directly to your handlebars, and that leaves just the charger. Be sure you charge up your bike before it's first used for optimal battery life, and enjoy the ride. Stay tuned for any updates with any new tricks and tips for the bikes.